So how do movies manipulate you into liking or disliking characters? How do movies get you to root for characters or root against them? There's a lot of tricks that movies use, but in this video I'm going to show you just one of them, which is a very complicated thing. It's the direction the character is turned toward you or away from you as the character is on the screen. I'm going to call this character turns. There are a lot of different ways characters can be turned. The standard way is to show you a character 3/4 turned toward you. This is a standard used in almost all interviews. It's used in almost all over-the-shoulder shots. This is a position that is natural and comfortable for viewers because characters aren't looking directly at them or facing them directly. The 3/4 turned towards you also allows for the fourth wall to be maintained. I'm assuming you know what the fourth wall is, but let's define it anyway. In theater, the fourth wall is the invisible wall between the audience and the stage. That wall exists for the movies. With movies, characters aren't aware that they're being watched, but you are aware that you're watching them. There's a wall between you and the characters that can't be broken, but when a character stares at the screen, looking at you, that's breaking the fourth wall. Now, the 3/4 turn towards you maintains the wall, but also gives you a friendly view of the character. They're mostly open to you. Their shoulders are opened up to you, and you can see most of the front side of them. In real life, of course, this is a friendly posture because there is some vulnerability and yet there's some friendliness. If you watch most movies, you're going to see that 3/4 turns toward you a lot. Now let's talk about some of the more complicated ones. First, there's a 100-degree turn toward you. That's exactly what I'm doing in this video. And in fact, it's become a standard for vlogging and all kinds of videos on YouTube and elsewhere on the internet. However, in theater and the movies, that 100-degree turn towards you is the ultimate sign of vulnerability. Well, at least that's what the textbooks say. When a character is facing the audience but isn't aware of the audience and they're almost completely vulnerable to the audience. And that brings forth all the emotions that vulnerability typically ushers forth. A character is being open, not secretive. A character is being exposed. They're not being protected. They aren't in a defensive posture. They aren't aware that they're being watched, but we know that they are. So a lot of the times, 100% turned towards you without looking at the camera. That means that the character is, of course, as I said, vulnerable. But then there are moments where characters are looking at the camera, or there are moments where 100% towards you means not vulnerability, but power. In fact, breaking the fourth wall in movies, as well as in theater, is a sign of power. The characters break out of their movie world and show an awareness that they're being watched, an awareness of the world beyond them, which is our reality.
Solly, when you're through with that, I'd like to have it back. I'd like to keep that particular piece of paper myself. I have a hunch it might turn out to be something pretty important. A document.
Sure.
Like the Declaration of Independence and the Constitution.
Now, breaking the fourth wall can be fun and hip and interesting, or it can be jarring, disorienting, disconcerting. It's like in writing when people use the word you, Y-O-U. That word you is very powerful because it calls attention to the most important person in the world, which is you. When a character talks to you through the movie screen, that gets your attention because they're addressing you. So this is yet another meaning for the 100% turn toward you. Characters are showing power and awareness. Now, there are other kinds of turns. There's the 90-degree turn, in which we see characters in profile. There's the 3/4 turn away from us, the audience, which means we see mostly the back of a character. And then there's a 100% turn away from the audience, which means we don't see the character's face at all, we just see the character's backside. Let's deal with the last two. According to the textbooks, the 3/4 turn away from us means that we are sort of identifying with the character and seeing that character's perspective. In, for example, Citizen Kane, one of the most famous movies and supposedly greatest movies ever made, you follow a journalist around the entire movie as this journalist searches for the truth about the main character, played by Orson Welles, and this secret word, Rosebud. We almost never see this journalist's face in the movie, but we do see him at 3/4 turned away from us as he's investigating. Thus we become part of the investigation, and we become basically his friend or his buddy, the second journalist, getting to look over his shoulder as he finds out various truths or has characters tell him various stories. Now, of course, in over-the-shoulder shots, you usually are seeing two characters. One is 3/4 turned towards you, the character's face whom you're seeing, but then there's another character. Maybe you just see the shoulder or at least a lot of the backside of a character, but you see that character 3/4 turned away from you. So an over-the-shoulder shot has that dynamic of seeing a person be sort of friendly and opening up to us, but then the witness, the eyewitness, is the person turned away from us, and we, the audience, are like that person. One of the more complicated turns is the 100% turn away from us. Now, the textbooks would say this is a completely unfriendly stance. When we don't see somebody's face, we don't get to see who they are, what they're feeling or thinking, thus we don't identify with them. This is a sign of isolation, alienation, inhospitability, and a lot of other emotions and ideas attached to being turned away from or having a face turned away from us.
I don't remember. It doesn't matter.
I think this is true in a lot of classical movies where you do see characters whom you've identified with throughout an entire movie then turned completely away from you. You are feeling those emotions of alienation, inhospitability, deep sadness, depression, and so on. Now, the 100% turn away from us, although that's one definition, has changed over time, and now there's several meanings associated with it. And this is actually one of my main points in this video, that these character turns pick up meanings, but I think over time, and as times change, then the meanings associated with these character turns will change. In recent years, characters turn completely away from us is actually sort of a good thing. It becomes a first-person point of view shot where we identify with that character's point of view. In a lot of shots where we follow a character around and yet we see their backside and they're 100% turned away from us, we're actually identifying with them and seeing the world as they see it. These kinds of shots have been made in the last 15 to 20 years especially, and I think are influenced by video games, where, as you know, in video games, you see from a third-person perspective a character, and you are that character, making that character move around in the game world, but you mostly see that character's backside. Movies I think are imitating video games in this way, and have changed some of the meanings, as I said, of 100% turn away. Take, for example, Children of Men, a movie where you follow a character around in a futuristic or near-futuristic world. There's very little cutting in this movie, and so it's like a video game where you see the character from behind and you follow him around as he goes through a world. This is a sign of identification, not of alienation, and we are this character and we understand this character's point of view. Now, I think this is an important point because even though I give you textbook definitions for the 3/4 turn towards you, the 100% turn towards you, and so on, these things can change over time, and in individual movies, depending on the context, these can pick up their own meanings as directors assign them meanings in particular movies. So what I told you in this video works most of the time and for movies made in the past, but maybe not necessarily for movies and videos made in the future. Thanks for subscribing to my channel. Please like this video if you liked it. I really appreciate any comments you have. Thanks for participating in this channel as well. Thanks for the great commenters who do comment. Thank you and have a great day.